Hello and welcome to Staff Picks, the podcast for movie nerds by movie nerds. As always, I'm Mario Lanza and I am your host on our journey through the movies out there that just need a little more love. And welcome, as always, to my Halloween episode. This is what I do every year. I pull out one of my favorite horror movies and I give it to you, serve it up on a platter on Halloween, and this is my Halloween 2024 episode. We will be talking about the very famous Korean zombie movie Train to Busan, which I could not love more. This is one of those episodes that perhaps this movie isn't as little known as some of the other movies I've covered. This is pretty well known, but I just want to talk about this because I'm dying to talk about what I consider maybe the greatest horror movie of the past 20 years. So that's my premise of where we're going here. My guest for this one, she is a regular here on Staff Picks here in Horror Month. She's been on before for Cabin in the Woods, and I know we did one other one, but I forgot what it was, and I'm sure she'll remind me quickly. But
it's The Mist.
The Mist. There she is, jumping in even before her cue. So well done, Jessi. But yeah, so welcome back, one of my all-time favorite Staff Picks guests, Jessi Bentley.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I jumped in early, Mario.
This is why I like you, because you follow the beat of a different drummer, Jessi.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad that you had me back. It's always fun to sit here and talk about horror movies, especially in Horror Month. You know, I'm glad to be back.
All right, so before we get too far, remind people who you are and why you end up on Staff Picks all the time.
Hi, okay, I'm Jessi. I am an alcohol beverage chemist. I am from Lexington, Kentucky. I'm a country girl, Kentucky girl born and raised. I generally describe myself as an alcohol chemist, a cat mom, and a horror fan. So I guess that's why Mario likes to have me on Horror Month. It is horror year-round in my heart. It is always the appropriate time to watch a horror movie and to talk about a horror movie. Yeah.
Yeah, let me add to that. I love, Jessi, you have a very interesting thought process. And I, as a person who has a weird thought process too, I appreciate people who have very unique thought processes. And you always approach something from a very interesting angle, and you make me laugh all the time, and you're very smart. And I love guests like that.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate that. That's a great compliment coming from you, Mario.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, Miss Jessi here. I'm always excited to have her back on. And we've been talking about this episode for a while, Train to Busan, which I'm trying to think where I even want to start with this one, because this is not a little-known movie, right?
No. From what I can tell, it is very well known. I mean, it's still it was, on Netflix for the longest time. I'm not sure if you can currently watch it anywhere else. But a lot of people know about this movie. I hear people, talk about this movie, but still not as much as a lot of other movies. It still doesn't get the recognition. I think the people that like it really love it. But I think the people that have never heard of it have never heard of it. I had asked some of my coworkers and they had not heard of this movie, and I was like, well, you need to go watch it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This to me, I do a lot of horror movies, obviously, on Staff Picks, but one of my favorite things is to recommend horror movies to people who aren't really horror movie fans.
Yeah.
And I think this one is fantastic for that because it's not super bloody, it's not super gory, it's not intended to gross you out or make it unpleasant. But I will say one thing. This movie has an emotional punch right up there with any great drama movie. Like, this movie will fucking wreck you.
Oh my gosh, especially the first time you watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're into cry. I don't care if you're a man, woman, child, whatever, you're going to cry at this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. This is like Titanic level gut punch, this movie.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that's what I'm warning people, or not warning, I'm hyping people to watch this movie, that this isn't just a great horror movie. This is a great movie, period, that just happens to be a horror movie.
And see, I'm one of those people that I really don't get that emotional unless the animal dies. And I think you have some grand theory about animals and dying in horror movies. I think I've heard you mention that before. But this is one where you didn't even have to have an animal to die. I didn't even need that to pull at my heartstrings. It really was. Usually the people are the bad guys, but the people, this pulls at your heartstrings. It really, really does, no matter who you are.
So what you're saying, Jesse, is this movie was so good it doesn't even need the added bonus of a dead animal.
Yes, exactly.
If I could paraphrase, yeah.
Yes.
To summarize for people, yeah, I've long had a theory that back in the 90s and or even 80s, 2000s, they always had a trope in movies where something scary would happen and the dog would be threatened, but the last minute the dog would be pulled away. And I hated that trope so much because it was so cheap. And so I always point out the movies that don't do that. And one I point out is Jaws. Jaws, the Pipit the dog gets eaten. And Halloween, Michael Myers kills a dog. And again, I have nothing against dogs. I just like a director who won't go for that trope and will go the other way with it.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, the dog's safe, and it's like, no, it's not safe. But well, regardless, there's no dogs in this movie to either be safe or not be safe that I noticed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, we can assume that every dog in Korea probably died in this movie.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So getting back to the emotional punch of this movie is hardcore emotional. And I'm not underselling this at all. I watched this movie twice this week to prepare for this podcast, and my heart hurts. You should not watch this movie twice in 1 week. It's not good for you.
No, it's one of those that even when you know the ending that's coming, it's still gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll spoil it, obviously. We're going to go through that. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, okay. So to sum up this movie, it came out in 2016, a Korean movie, Train to Busan, just another zombie movie in an endless string of zombie movies that have been going on since the 60s. And I would like to get your thoughts on this, Jesse. But in general, I don't like zombie movies. So it's kind of surprising I like this movie as much as I do.
I am kind of on the opposite end of that. I have always been a huge zombie fan. Growing up, one of my favorite movies was Night of the Living Dead. Like, I had it on VHS, black and white, would watch it all the time. So that has a special place in my heart. And then, just growing up, I still watched all the other iterations of zombies, television shows. I mean, like, my middle school, high school was right in the time of the Walking Dead franchise first getting big. So that played a huge role in my idea of zombies. I mean, everything from Warm Bodies to World War Z to Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead. I really do enjoy zombie movies. I enjoy the different iterations of it. And even some of the folklore behind zombies, I'm here for some of the old folklore behind it. So. Okay,
so you're more of a typical horror movie fan that just likes the zombie stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. Because it's neat, because of everything it's rooted in, it is a neat trope, and it is completely overdone, though. I will say that, especially in today's day and age. Which is why this movie's a little bit different. Because like you said, and I'll say it too, I think this is one of the best zombie movies. I mean, I'll say the past 10 years. You go a little bit further than that, but it really is a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even saying best zombie movie. I'm saying best horror movie, period, of the past 20 years. That's where I'd go, even beyond
horror. That's a bold claim, and I don't think, I mean, Cabin in the Woods will always hold that in my heart for at least the past 20 years. But zombie movie-wise, I'm totally on board, at least for the past 10 years, yeah.
Okay,
Great
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, see, my thing was, I saw Night of the Living Dead, and I saw it many times as a kid. I saw Dawn of the Dead. I saw Day of the Dead. Like, I'd seen all these dozens of times before we got to the 2000s and late 90s when they introduced... Which one did the running zombies come in? Was that 28 Days Later?
Oh, now you're asking me a piece of trivia I don't quite know.
Yeah. I think that's the right answer, but I'm not sure.
I'll say yes. I mean, that is definitely one of the early ones that had it, and that's a great movie.
Yeah, I think that's right. Again, the zombies were always slow and shambling, and that was just the thing. And then in the late 90s or early 2000s, I forget, somewhere, and someone knows this better than me, they introduced the fast-running zombies, which I had a hard time accepting, Jesse, because, again, this is my whole childhood, these slow zombies. So for me, that was a big change to adjust to that. And they had to drag me kicking and screaming to accept that.
And I can understand that because it is such a different viewpoint, but not to nerd out on like zombie stuff, but you kind of just have to get behind whatever they say the drive or the cause of the zombies are. And you just kind of have to know a little bit about neurology, I guess, and just think, well, if it really is just all primal instinct and your brain is just on go, would you be slow? Would you be fast? I don't know. But like, would you be slow if it was more of an infection and you were a rotting, shambling corpse? The answer is yes. I think it's all derivative of like what the plague comes from, whatever the zombie comes from.
Let me point out, this is why I love Jessi, because she's already turned this into a discussion of neurology.
I'm sorry. You bring a chemist, you bring a scientist to a discussion about zombies.
Okay, well, let me bring the opinion of my wife in here, and my wife would say slow zombies are boring. Fast zombies are way more interesting. So she doesn't get why I had a problem with that.
Oh, fast zombies are terrifying. No, if I had to go up against a zombie, I want a slow zombie. 100%. The fast zombies are nightmares, yes. And I think that's why we pivoted to that. I think that's why culture did, is because, it's scarier.
It is. I mean, it really is. It honestly is. And the zombies in this one are particularly fast and particularly terrifying.
And feral, particularly feral.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get into that. I have one question I want to save for you later that comes to science. There's a science a problem I have with this movie scientifically, and I want to get your opinion on it.
Okay, I will just say I am a chemist and not a biologist. I will just preface anything with that.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so this Korean zombie movie came out in 2016, and I would not have seen this movie. I see, in general, I'm not big into foreign movies that much. I'm not big into zombie movies, so this was not up my alley. And I will say I saw a recommendation on Facebook once, and this is from a guy who was on Survivor, if you guys are Survivor fans, Lex Vandenberg from Africa.
Yeah.
He had posted something, and he goes, guys, there's this horror movie out there called Train to Busan. It's like the greatest movie I've ever seen. And I'm like, Lex is a big horror guy, so that's a huge something for him to say.
And especially coming from him, you're like, I have to watch this, at least give it a try, because I know your movie recommendation list is a mile long, but I'm sure that kind of puts it up there a little bit coming from Lex.
Well, yeah, this guy's a horror movie guy, and he's saying not only is this like the greatest horror movie he's ever seen, it's one of the best movies, period. And he's like, I could not give this recommendation high enough. And so that's how I ended up taking a chance on it. How did you get introduced to this movie? Did you see it in the theater or anything?
No. So I actually came about this movie during one of my Halloween binges. I tend to watch horror movies all year round. I do binge them way more often, August, September, October time of year. And it really come down to I was just watching any and everything that came on Hulu or Netflix or at that point Amazon, and I had a couple other streaming services. And I watched this. And I don't mind that it was Korean because I'm hard of hearing anyway, so I watch everything with subtitles. And so I was watching this and realized, oh, hey, this is actually in a different language. I need to pay attention to this. And then watched it. And I was like, oh, this is so great. And you saw that later on, other people, a couple people on my Facebook were recommending it. I was like, okay, so a couple people do know about this movie, but then, like I said, I go to work and they had not heard of the movie, but just in one of my Halloween binges.
Okay. Yeah, see, I remember, I saw this on Lex's recommendation, and I just loved it, and I was, like, blown away, because I did not think a horror movie could be that moving. Like, where it reaches into your soul, and it really affects you on, like, a father-daughter level, emotional relationships and stuff. And I remember just reading about this movie and reading about it. I'm like, this is one of the most flawless movies I have ever seen. And I could not believe it was a horror movie. And you know what bothers me, Jessi, is I still to this day read reviews of Train to Busan, assuming everyone loves it as much as I do. And do you know on Rotten Tomatoes it only has a 73% success rate right now?
Does it really? Well, what do people find as... Like, I don't have any major complaints with the movie. Nothing that's like, oh, they needed to change this, they needed to do this, like, majorly better.
Okay, if you want some reviews, the first one, the one that I read a lot is, I've already seen this movie, it's basically 28 days later. Like, it does nothing new.
Oh, come on.
I mean, yeah, if you're a zombie movie completist, okay, perhaps this isn't the most unique one out there. I'll give you that one.
I mean, maybe so far as just plot alone, if you break it down into A, B, C, D, like just in plot points, sure. But if you get more into, like you said, some of the emotion behind it, because typically in zombie movies, it's not a father-daughter relationship that usually gets built. It's usually some kind of like love relationship or some kind of romantic relationship in another fashion. Or, it's a loner type thing. You don't really get this mother-daughter, father-daughter interaction. I've only seen it in there's one other zombie show that I've watched that has a mother-daughter duo that I think is a super strong duo and pulled at your heartstrings, and it reminds me a lot of this movie.
Okay, yeah, the other one that I see a lot is exactly what you just said. It cares too much about emotions. It's not really a horror movie. So,
oh, gravy.
if that's the takeaway you get from this movie, I mean, I hate to say this, I don't really care what your other opinions are, to be honest.
Okay, so as much as it is, like, at the end of the day, yes, you can pull emotion from it. It still is a zombie movie, and it's still a dang good, just good plot zombie movie at that. It's
yeah.
Cool effects, cool, well written, a kick-ass fight scene, like, yeah.
Another one I see is it's not gory enough. It feels like it's toned down, which, okay, but is that really a reason to knock it and say it's not good?
No, and I'm one of those people who don't mind the gore. I mean, like, Rob Zombie's one of my favorite directors, and I know I would probably get a lot of hate for that. But he does a lot of gory stuff, and and that's fine. And Saw, is a ton of gore. You don't have to have that for it to be a horror movie. I mean, there's also plenty of amazing horror movies that have little to zero gore. I don't know. You can never please everyone, and I get that, but it definitely deserves higher than 78%. I would have said maybe closer to 85 or 90 if I had to guess what the general public would say. Because you're always going to have people that hate it. You're always going to have 1 to 5% of the population.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the thing. I would have assumed this would be around 95 or 90, but yeah, 73. That means 27% of the people who took the time to review this movie would not recommend it. And like, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier. This is a near flawless movie. Like, I've watched it 4 times now, like very short succession in amount of times recently. And I'm trying to pick out how you could make this movie better. And this is one of those rare movies. Like, there's very few things I could add to this movie that would make it better. It's so tight.
I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think of something. That's my silence of me trying to come up with something to add to that, because maybe other than some, like, aesthetic design choices, like, I would have maybe costumed some people differently. But come on, is that really a complaint I'm going to make to not recommend a movie?
Yeah. Maybe if they painted the train green instead of silver.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's like all these complaints I hear are just so nitpicky. There's such little things to complain about. That's what I'm pointing out.
It's like, well, then what movie do these people like is what I would want to know. What movie suits them,
Okay, I guess we'll get to my problem here from a scientific. This is the only thing. I asked my wife about this because my wife is my logic advisor on movies. I asked her, what's wrong with this movie? What would you pick out? And she's like, there's only one thing about this movie that I find a little questionable that I could nitpick. And she's like, the gestation period of when people get bitten and they turn to zombies, it varies wildly depending on the plot. Sometimes they turn immediately. Sometimes they take a long time. So she's like, that's my only nitpick, is it seems very inconsistent.
I have only one defense to that. And that would be that in other zombie movies, I'm particularly thinking, I believe, of The Walking Dead, and I swear if I'm wrong, The Walking Dead fans are going to come after me for this one. So please don't. I swear that they also said that, like, it could vary. Like, some people would turn 5 minutes after death, some would turn 5 hours after death. Like, it all kind of varied based on physiology, based on, I guess, if you got bit, if it's a giant wound, if you're being eaten. I don't know. Maybe a lot of different things. I don't really know. But I can understand that. You got to give them a little wiggle room to fit the plot. And I think it's logically still possible, but it's used to a theatrical advantage, yes.
Yeah, no, and I would defend the movie a little bit because I've watched this movie so closely the last couple days, just looking for little nitpicks. I think the director is smart enough to cover for that plot hole, and I think it's not spelled out in the movie, but I think it is the depth of the wound depends on how fast you're going to turn. And I think if you pay attention, it really is consistent. If it's a light bite or a light wound, you have maybe a little bit to explain things or name your unborn daughter or do things like that. But the people who get their throat ripped out, they turn instantly. So I think the movie does cover it. It just doesn't spell it out.
Right. And I mean, I think that a lot of things, there are a few like little subplots in the movie that it doesn't spell right out that you kind of have to pick up on.
Yeah.
So that's on par.
Again, this is just daring my wife to pick out a nitpick about this movie, and that is the one she could come up with. So, again, that's a pretty minor nitpick, and she is pretty good at picking out things that aren't logical, and that's the only thing she could come up with, and she would agree with me that this is almost a perfect movie otherwise. So, again, this is not a 73% Rotten Tomatoes movie. That's ridiculous.
No. Blasphemous to this movie.
Blasphemous, that's right. Now, do you know much of the history about this movie? Like, I was doing a little research, but I should know a little more. I'm not really good on the foreign movies. Did this win like Best Picture in Korea or something?
So I did at one point look up the awards that it won, if my computer will cooperate. I'm actually on the Wikipedia page right now. So did it win? Yes, it was nominated for a ton of awards: Best Actor, Best Film, Best Editing, Best Cinematography. But it ended up winning. Let's see. Yes, it won a couple for Best Film at some foreign film festival. I'm not going to try to butcher the name. I'll do a disservice to that. Yes, and then a few of the actors won Best Supporting Actor. It won Best Horror Film at the Saturn Awards, at the Fangoria Awards. It won Best Foreign Language Film and Best Actor. No, he was nominated. But yeah, it was nominated and won a few things, yeah.
Yes, it won a slew of awards, which I should point out to people is not traditionally what happens with horror movies. So let me point that out.
No, and I mean, I think that's a testament to the acting in this. The cinematography was good. I appreciated it from an action zombie perspective. I don't watch a lot of foreign films, Korean films, that kind of thing. I mean, I watch Squid Games. That doesn't really count. I think everybody watched that. So I can't speak to that aspect of it, but from an American perspective, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, and once again, I'm going to say, to me, this is almost a near perfect horror movie. This is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. It's one of the best movies in my collection that just happens to be horror on the side. And so I'm going to give my thesis once again that I think Train to Busan should be relegated to history up there with like The Exorcist and Silence of the Lambs, these movies that are considered like masterpieces of scary movies. I know it's not there yet, but damn, the more I watch this movie, the more I think it should be up there.
That's a very bold claim, Marian. I don't know if I can agree wholeheartedly with you, but it is still a very, very good movie, and it is one of my top favorite zombie movie in the past 10 years for sure. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to see if I can sell you on this thesis by the end of this podcast.
Okay. Well, we will see.
Although I should point out that's also somewhat faint praise when I compared it to The Exorcist, because I don't like The Exorcist. So maybe that's not such a strong claim by me.
Well, we've been trying to convert you to love Scream for how many years now, and that's never going to happen. So maybe this will be the Scream for me.
I literally have a list of like 6 people who want to come on and yell at me about Scream.
So I was actually thinking about this movie. It was like a random like shower thought. We should do a panel or something weird if you ever do decide to do something for Scream, everybody that wants to do it should get on and convince you why you need to love Scream.
All right. Well, let's quickly move on to a different topic here.
Yes.
We'll get something more pleasant. Okay, so I think we should walk people through this movie, and again, this is a relatively simple plot. It's we're not going to have a whole lot to say other than just us riffing on the plot and the characters and stuff, but very simple plot. And anything else you want to say about it before we dive into it?
I buckle up, and I hope you've watched the movie before listening to this, and if not, go watch it right now. Last chance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, this isn't a movie that depends on spoilers. Like, it's not going to ruin it if you hear us talk about it first, but I want you to get the emotional punch and not see it coming. So go watch it first. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about. So this movie is Train to Busan. It's a story basically about a bunch of passengers on a train in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, basically, and it's an interesting scenario because it's a zombie attack, but it's in a very confined space, and there's very interesting logistics on a train that you wouldn't have anywhere else in a zombie movie. And like, do you like the train setting in this movie?
Oh, I enjoy the train setting. I think it's terrifying. I mean, next to being like on a ship or a plane, it's about one of the most confined but not confined, like most confined public spaces you can be in. I know that's an oxymoron, but um, no, I think the train was a good choice. I generally like train movies. If you ever saw Snowpiercer, that took place on a train. I like it. I think it's neat.
I saw this movie compared to Snowpiercer quite a bit in a lot of the negative reviews.
Um, I mean, I own Snowpiercer. I will always tell people to go watch that one too. So I'm not one to talk. I think the train is an interesting dynamic, and I think it's an interesting dynamic in this one too.
Yeah, and I like Snowpiercer too. I do enjoy it, but the people who don't like this movie often compare it to Snowpiercer. I just noticed that was a pattern I noticed.
Of course, that's funny.
So it's a zombie movie on a train, which is interesting because it's a confined space and they can't get off. So you're trapped with the zombies, and the zombies will be in different cars. And there's parts in this movie where they have to go from one car to the other and go like a safe car through the zombie car to the safe car to rescue people, which makes an interesting logistic. Yeah, those are some of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Oh, that is one of my favorite fight scenes, I think, in a zombie movie. I will go that far. Like that, the train setup does allow for that. So.
Okay, so let's jump right into the plot here. So the opening, I was shocked when I watched this movie how creepy it is because it kind of reminded me of COVID a little bit, the quarantine zone.
Oh, I know, especially like in hindsight now. I mean, I'm sure if you watched it pre-2020, and I think I did for the first time, it really doesn't hit like that. But going back post, you're kind of like, oh.
Yeah, bad memories of 2020.
Yeah.
So open this movie. Explain the quarantine scene to people how we open this movie.
Okay, so we open this movie with a man that we only meet for the first 3 minutes of this movie. And essentially, he looks to be a worker. We're not really introduced to what his name is, but he's driving a little work truck, and he's driving through a government set up checkpoint. It's a quarantine point. So he drives his little work truck through, and they have to stop him. These men in full PPE, personal protective equipment, full PPE, are out there spraying him with what we assume to be some kind of cleanser, biohazard disposal. I don't know what they spray on you when you're in quarantine. I have no idea. They're spraying some unknown substance onto his truck and all of that. Well, he rolls down his window and he's like, "Are you burying the pigs again?" And it was just like a weird opening line for a movie. I will say that.
Yeah, so what happens is there's some kind of biotech lab and there's been a leak or some kind of meltdown nearby, and they've released a virus, which again, tell me if this sounds somewhat like 2020 in this Asian country, and these people are driving through being sprayed with a weird mist to get it off them. So we find out something bad has happened nearby at some chemical facility.
Yes, we find out that some kind of a spill, and they call it like a slight leak or a small leak. And he's like, "Small leak my ass," and he drives on. So, they decontaminate him. He goes on. His phone starts ringing, and like distracted drivers do, he hits something. And, the first time I watched this, I will say I thought it was a person. It's not a person. He hits a deer, which is common, especially here in Kentucky. People hit deer. He goes back to look at the deer. Deer's, like, obviously dead. He looks at his car to make sure his car is, like, not messed up or anything. He gets in his car and drives on. Doesn't think anything else about the deer. The camera pans out. We look at the deer. The car drives off in the distance. And the dead deer twitches back to life in a very unnatural way.
Yeah, that is an interesting shot. So one of the trademarks of this movie, if you guys haven't seen it, is when someone dies or something dies, they will collapse to the ground, and then they do this very unique twitch, and it's very violent, and they move up and they stand up in a very unnatural way. And I don't know how they filmed this. It must have been CGI how they did this deer, because I know there's no stunt deer that did this move.
Oh, no, no. I don't think that a stunt deer would have done it. I don't think you could have even possibly. I mean, maybe you could have done an animatronic. It's got to be CGI. CGI is the cheapest. They would have just done it that way, yes. But I don't know how the people did it, but I mean, I did comment a few times watching the movie. I was like, dang, these stunt actors must be like break dancers in their spare time.
Yeah, I actually watched one of the features on the DVD that did talk about that. They hired a lot of acrobats and contortionists and people with double joints just for these specific moves.
Bingo, bango. That makes so much sense. I was like, well, these people, I couldn't figure out if it was filmed in reverse, which wouldn't make a lot of sense. I guess I could have, just Googled it and probably found what you found. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you could have been an old person like me and owned DVDs that have special features. I know young people like you do not have DVDs.
Oh, no, that is such a lie. I own a very shameful amount of Blu-rays and DVDs.
Okay, well, I'm excited to hear that. I thought the younger generation has lost that habit.
Typically, yes, but we're very old school. We own a bunch of CDs as well, vinyl. We're very much into physical media.
Okay, good. That's good. Good to know. All right, so let me comment on this deer. So I should point out, Jessi, we almost have your least favorite trope here where an animal dies in a horror movie.
I was almost crying in the first 5 minutes, right, from this stupid deer dying.
But then, happily, the deer springs back to life, the old trope, which annoys me to no end in most movies, but I'm sure it made you very happy that we have a zombie deer that didn't die.
And, no pet cemetery required, right?
That's true, yeah. Yeah. The soil is as stony in Korea as it is here.
Yeah. No, it's a little less complicated than that.
Yeah, so we have this zombie deer at the start. It's a really creepy opening to the movie. The guy hits the deer comes back to life, stares at the camera with these milky blue eyes. And that, I think it just goes right into the opening credits, like Train to Busan, right? Something like that.
It cuts straight to him in his office. I'm pretty sure.
All right, yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's talk about our main star of this movie, and this is something I'm always do to be cruel to my guests. I will let you try to pronounce his name first before I try it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're asking a girl from Kentucky to try to pronounce. I will try my hardest. Sikwoo? Sikwoo?
It could be. I don't know.
I don't know. I have a really hard time hearing it when I'm trying to listen, because where I don't know the language and how it flows, it's really hard to pick up where the name is inserted into the syntax. I tried really hard to figure out what their names were. I'm not going to lie, and it was very difficult.
Well, with the southern accent, it sounds musical and magical. So no matter what you said, it would have sounded good.
Well, thank you. Somebody told me I sounded like a banjo once, and I took that as an insult. But I'll take your compliment was nicer, but also banjo, and I'm fine with that.
I personally would not say you sound like a banjo, but I can see where they came from with that. I disagree. I think it's a wonderful accent, but yeah. Okay, so okay, so his name is spelled, and I'm not going to guarantee I can say it any better with my accent. It's SEOK-WOO. Sikwoo, perhaps?
Sikwoo? Yes, yeah. We'll go with that.
For the remainder of this movie, I'm going to refer to him as Dad. I think that will be easier.
That is 100% fine with me. Makes it a lot less complicated. Yes.
All right. It's banjo approved.
Woo!
Yeah, so the dad in this movie, Sikwoo, I'm just going to call him the dad. It is the story of him. And what does he do for a living, Jessi?
He is a fund manager. Which essentially is just a businessman from what I can gather. He seems to be somebody who delves in transactions or stock trades or company-to-company transactions, accounting things that I don't work with.
Yeah, I don't know much about this world. My brother was one of these. He was a stock trader at one point, but I think he's a hedge fund manager. And they're the guys that work for the bank, and they buy stocks, and they watch the market, and they know when to buy and sell stocks when it's good for their business, but not for the average stock market, like the shareholders. So they can easily bankrupt normal people in the interest of keeping the business running. I think that's what he does.
And that would make perfect sense in context with the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a rather, he has a rather selfish job. I'll just say it. Many people do not like hedge fund managers and stock traders. And he at the start of the movie, I think he said, "Oh, there's this one stock, it's going down," and the dad says, sell everything we have." And one of his subordinates comes in and says, "If we sell it, that'd be bad for the market. Like a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money." And he's like, "It doesn't matter, sell it." So he's a very cold, calculated businessman, and this is going to be important to his arc later in the movie.
Oh yeah, it is. It's very important to his arc. And then like you said, he's very devoted to his work, very much a workaholic. And it's kind of the nature of the job, but you also kind of have to be cutthroat to do it. So.
Yeah, it's not something I could personally do, but I do know a lot of people who do this. They make a lot of money. It takes a certain personality.
Oh, I would imagine, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's doing this. He's like selling all these stocks. He's bankrupting somebody, who knows, but as he's doing this, he's reading the news. They have like Korean Google or whatever, and he's reading the news, and there's a mysterious fish deaths at this reservoir nearby. And so it's setting up that there's this bio leak going on around him in Korea, but he doesn't pay attention because it's not important to him yet.
Right. I mean, it's already like we're planting the seeds, like movies love to do. And, it shows a bunch of dead fish, which is always like a red flag, regardless of the reason of dead fish. Massive dead fish is bad. But yeah, he is definitely preoccupied with other things. We learned that it's his daughter's birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, this will become very important to the plot. We're going to meet his daughter in a second. Although, before we jump to the daughter, I should point out we've already got the trope that you like and the trope that I like. The deer that was hit but did not die, so you're happy, but the fish that died, so I guess I'm happy.
Yes. So
we all win.
But are fish really animals? I mean, I guess they're not mammals. I don't know.
I mean, you are a chemist, not a biologist. You already said that, so I don't know.
That's very true. I don't know my classification, so don't come at me, biologist.
What's their phylum?
I don't even know. I couldn't spell phylum.
Okay, so let's go meet his daughter. So dad goes home and he's got a daughter. So basically the gist of this movie is he's from a divorced family. He just recently split up with his wife. She lives in Busan. He lives in Seoul, I believe. And they have a daughter named, what is her name? Suwon?
Suwon, yeah.
Suwon. S-U-A-N. We will have to pronounce that one because they say it a lot in the movie.
Oh, yes. I can do that one for sure.
And the interesting thing about that is the actress who plays her is also named Suwon, which I found interesting.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I kind of like when movies and TV shows and things do that. It adds a little bit of extra personality or whatever you want to call to it. I like that.
Yeah. Fun fact about Train to Busan. Okay, so let's go back to his house. So he has apparently full custody of Suwon, which I don't know how he got that because usually they at least split it at worst. But yeah, he's got full custody of this little girl, Suwon, and we're going to go home and meet her. And it's a big deal because tomorrow is her birthday, right?
Yes, tomorrow is her birthday. Her dad, I think, remembers. I think he does remember because he asked his assistant what a kid's like, so he knows he needs to get his daughter a gift. His ex-wife also reminds him. And he comes in and he talks to his daughter. She's on the phone with her mom, though. It's kind of a very tough dynamic. She wants to go visit her mom on her birthday, which, like Mario said, that's going to be tomorrow in this where we're at right now in the story.
Yeah, so he goes home and he got a birthday present for his daughter, Suwon. We'll talk about her in a second, but the gist is he buys her a Nintendo Wii, thinking this is what all the kids have, and when she opens it, she's kind of disappointed, and he's like, why? And she's like, well, because you got me this earlier in the year for Children's Day, and we pan over, and there's her Nintendo Wii. So he doesn't even remember that he already bought her this.
This is just goes to show how disconnected he is. Like, he's present enough to try to be there, or at least to have that appearance of being there, like to have her, his assistant go get her present, but he doesn't remember what he got her. So that does play into the movie, and that plays into kind of the emotional of everything. So
yeah, the heart of this movie will be the relationship between the dad and Suwon. So we'll remember that for later. But I do want to ask you, Jessi, for people who may have not seen this movie, explain Suwon to people. What is she like?
Oh man, honestly, when I was watching this movie, she she seems like a very depressing young child. I guess if we're starting from a descriptive standpoint, she's probably in what, first or second grade. So that would make her, I guess 8 or 9 years old, 7, 8, 9 years old. And she seemed kind of reserved, quiet, shy. Maybe not. She does seem kind, but she doesn't seem like she really wants to stand up for herself, that kind of thing. But she's also a young child, and she also seems to want to be with her mom, which is also kind of part of everything. And that's also kind of part of this whole movie. That's why it's called Train to Busan. She wants to go to Busan to her mother. Yeah.
Yeah, so Suwon, she has kind of shortish hair, not quite long hair, but not short, kind of in the middle, dark hair, really somber eyes. She doesn't smile a lot. You get the sense she's going through a lot of stuff in her life. Even the grandma who lives there with her says, this is a rough time for you and your wife with the divorce, but it's a rough time for Suwon too, so consider her. So yeah, this is a very emotional, fragile relationship she has with her dad right now, that he's not really there in her life, even though he has full custody. She doesn't really like him. She wants to like him, but he's mean to her, kind of. In fact, there's one quote I read where he says, we'll do something fun tomorrow. And she says, you always say we will do that. You always say next time, but you always lie to me, Dad. You're never there. You always lie. So you get the sense he has let her down a lot in her short life.
Oh, and I think that he knows that too. I think at first he does try to put it off, but especially, especially when he starts watching like her recital, I think it really does start to pull at him that, yeah, he is a little more absent than he should be. And, maybe he should take some steps to correct that.
Yeah, there's a really heartbreaking moment Jessi just described here with the recital. So she apparently had a recital at school that morning, and he missed it because he had to work. He misses all her recitals. And she had memorized a song for her dad, and he watches the video. The grandma took a video, and he watches it, and she starts singing the song, and she notices her dad's not there, and she just stops singing because it's so depressing. Her dad wasn't there to see it, the song that she prepared for him. And again, we're setting you up for some heartbreak in this movie. Get ready for it.
It's so melancholy, and like, I feel like I was a pretty happy child. She is very sad. She's it made me sad. The little actress, the girl actress for that was phenomenal, because she really does convince you that she's a sad little girl.
Yeah, she's unbelievable, and I'm surprised we didn't talk about her at the start, because to me, she's the big standout in this movie, even more than the adult actors. Some of the emotions they pull out of this little actress almost border on cruel looking to me. Like, is she really acting in some of these scenes when she's screaming later? Like, she goes really raw with her emotions in this movie.
She looks actually terrified. And I mean, don't they say that like the little girl that was on The Exorcist was like traumatized by some of the stuff? I mean, I don't know, but it does make you wonder, like maybe she really was scared to death, during some of that.
Yeah, but I totally buy, like you said, she's just sad and looks somber, and you just want to give this kid a hug.
You do.
I totally agree with that. She just looks like a kid who needs a hug.
Oh, it's so sad, but that just makes the movie even sadder, dang it.
I'm going to sell you on this, I'm telling you. I'm going to sell you on how good this movie is. I know you're not quite there yet. We'll get there.
Oh, it's good. I mean, it is, like I told you, it is still really far up there for me, but okay, we will proceed.
We'll get there. All right, so the thing is, for her birthday tomorrow, she wants to go to visit her mother in Busan, and the dad says, well, no, you can't go. You can't go by yourself on the train. It's a big trip. And she's like, you go with me. And he's like, no, I got to work. And she's like, Dad, come on, this is very important. So it's a big struggle. And I think because he lets her down, he wasn't there at her recital, and because he got her the wrong present, he's like, fine, I'll go with you on the train. So that's going to set up the trip in this movie. He's a reluctant traveler with his daughter to go visit his ex-wife.
Right, but I really hope he wouldn't let like a very young child travel alone on a train. I mean, I don't know, maybe that is common in other, I don't know, in European countries, Asian countries, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't want my 7 or 8 year old to travel alone. I don't know.
I will tell you, when I was a kid, they would have 7, 8 year olds on planes by themselves all the time back in the 70s and 80s. This is a relatively minor thing that kids are not allowed to travel by themselves.
That's bananas to me.
Yeah, it's a relatively new thing is what I meant to say. Yeah, it's odd to me that it's odd to you.
So I will say, though, it does seem like that the attendants were very attentive in this scenario, so they probably would make sure a child got to their location properly. I mean, heck, in my state, we've got issues with kids getting off on the wrong buses from school and not being able to get home right. I don't trust them to get across the country right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe kids were smarter back then. I don't know. I don't want to.
I know. I mean, that honestly may be it. Maybe they had more social skills. I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, kids were definitely more independent back then. That's the one thing. You just were treated like an adult from a very young age. So, but I do think this probably would not be unusual in a country like Korea or Japan that are relatively safe, where a kid probably could get on public transit by themselves and the attendants would look out for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it honestly kind of almost sounded like she had done it before. I'm not sure, but it almost sounded like it wasn't the wildest request, like you're saying. So.
Yeah, I got the sense too. She's done this before. That's how she even thinks it's an option.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's the thing, that she wants to go on the train tomorrow and to visit her mom, and the dad's like, "Fine, we'll go." And he's got a mom there, his grandma, or the girl's grandma, and she's like, "Yeah, it's good. When you're there, patch up the relationship with your wife. You shouldn't bail on a marriage this quickly." And he's like, "No, mother, I know what I'm doing." She's like, "Okay." So that's the premise, and really from there we're gonna launch into the plot of the movie.
Oh yeah, from there it's literally we're on the train to Busan.
Okay, so I'll get us onto the train here. So yeah, in the morning of her birthday, they get up real early. It's still dark out, and they are driving the train, and she's explaining. He's like, I saw that video of you where you were doing the recital and you forgot the words. And she's like, well, it's only because you weren't there. I did it for you, Dad. That's why I sang that song. And he's kind of bummed out about that, but he's going to make it up to her. He's going to make this day special, but it's not going to quite happen the way he hopes, because as they're going to the train, they're cut off by a bunch of ambulances and fire trucks rushing to a disaster nearby, some buildings on fire. They're like, I wonder what that is.
Yeah, and she sticks her hand out the window and catches ash in her hand and crumbles it up, and they look in the distance and you see the buildings on fire, and it definitely sets the scene that something's amiss.
Yeah, there's stuff's going down in Seoul, and not everybody knows about it yet, and it's going to all come to a head when they get on the train. So they get to the main station in Seoul. They get on a KTX train, I believe I wrote that down. I know nothing about this, but apparently this is the public rail network. Are you an expert on Korean rail networks, Jessi?
Oh, yeah, that's totally what I do in all of my off time, don't you know? No, definitely not a hobby, but I will agree that it is KTX. I think you're correct on that.
Thank you. Yes, we can both read the letters on the side of the train. We are equally good at that.
Yeah.
So they get on the train, and it's one of these big, long, not quite a bullet train, but it's a long train. There's 20 cars. There's a conductor in front and then 20 attached cars, and this will become important to the plot later. And from here we start meeting all the main characters. So why don't you describe, you don't need to know their names because I don't know their names either, but we just describe these main characters we're going to meet on the train here.
Okay, I will just do a quick list bullet point rundown of the passengers of our train. So we have the two that we have already met. We have the dad and Suan, the child, the little girl. We also have an entire, I think, high school baseball team. They appear to be going to something, not really sure. But anyway, an entire baseball team and a cheerleader girlfriend of one of the baseball team. She sits down next to one of the guys, so we just assume that this guy and then this cheerleader girl are going to be two of our main characters. We also meet an elderly woman, two elderly women, actually. They appear to be sisters or appear to be a family of some sort, and they're kind of bickering and getting on the train as well. Let's see, who else do we see? We also see, are we introduced to the pregnant woman yet? We're not introduced to her yet, are we?
No, we don't meet her until later. We also meet the conductor here, the little squirrely conductor, the guy that drives the train.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And all the stewards. There's some male and female stewards in their blue little blazers and scarves that will be the safety attendants on the train. They'll become important.
Oh, yes, and there's a very nicely and properly dressed. It's very much like flight attendants or something like that. That's what it reminded me of.
So everyone's boarding the train. We're going to meet all these characters. They'll become important to the plot later. And as they're getting on the train, again, nobody knows there's a zombie outbreak or a lab leak, whatever it is. Although we should talk about that. One of the things that I do like in zombie movies, I like when they don't really try to explain what happened, because I think if you get bogged down in the details, it really gets too annoying.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of like in this one they don't. There was some lab leak and it makes people zombies. That's all you're going to know about it, really.
Well, I feel like you kind of have to leave the ambiguity there to make it a little more free to just. Because, like you said, you get bogged down in the details. Somebody's going to nitpick it apart, find plot holes. The less you give yourself, you have more to work with. You have less plot holes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That reminds me. That's one of the other nitpicks I saw in the Rotten Tomatoes, people that were critical of this movie. I didn't like that there was no cure for the virus.
Oh, good gravy.
I don't even know how to relate to that. Yeah.
Like, do we want a Resident Evil where they spend like 6 movies trying to find a cure or whatever?
I think people do want that sometimes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll just franchise every movie. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, so something's going on up in the train station as the people are getting on the train, and nobody knows yet. They don't know this is now a death car. But it's going to happen real fast because as they're closing the doors and there's a security guard looking around to make sure no one's trying to sneak on, some girl who's possessed, who's been bitten by a zombie, runs on behind him and throws herself into the last car. And so she sneaks onto the train without anybody noticing.
Literally in the 2 seconds he has his head turned, she sprints on like a bat out of hell into this train car and beelines it for the bathroom.
Yeah, so we have a zombie. Patient X, we're going to call her, ends up hidden in a bathroom where she's going to transform. So unbeknownst to everybody else on the train, this is now not a place you want to be when the minute that virus gets released onto the train.
Yeah, and I mean, we have no idea how she got bit. We assume a lot of things. We assume it was already going on because of number 1, the deer, number 2, the fires, and everything else that we learned. But yeah, she is our patient zero, and she hops right on this train and into the bathroom, and immediately she knows something's wrong. I mean, she definitely knows that she is not feeling correct, and she almost tourniquets herself. I don't know if she's trying to, like, she looks like she's bitten on her leg. She tries to tourniquet, like, her upper leg, and I don't know if it's to stop the infection. I don't know if she's trying to cut off her leg. It doesn't work.
Yeah, she's one of the slow transformations. Again, there'll be some people who transform fast. There'll be some who transform slow. It takes her a good little bit. Although, I should point out, as the train is pulling out of the station and heading towards Busan, Suan, the little girl, notices a commotion in the station, that something's going on upstairs and people are yelling and fighting. But nobody else notices. So this is a little detail that Suan will notice things that nobody else does.
Yeah, and there are like these little signs that, something is amiss, but it's not. As with every zombie movie, it takes everyone way too long to figure out what's actually going on.
Yep. Okay, so let's set the stage here. So, Suan is in her seat with her dad. Her dad immediately falls asleep. That's how invested he is in this trip. So she's basically on her own, and she's going to start wandering the aisles. And as she's wandering up the aisles, going to the bathroom, she's heading for there's bathroom in between the cars. She sees this older guy in a suit. And I don't know what this character's name is, but he's very important to the plot. He's the main, very important businessman. How would you like to refer to this guy in this movie?
Oh, we can refer to him as either the older businessman or the evil man if we want to get into the plot point, because he's one of the most despicable characters in any horror movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's awful. We could just call him asshole if you want. I don't really care.
Oh, yeah, we can call him asshole. That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, so in my notes I call him suit guy. He's the guy in a business suit. But yeah, he is the old asshole. He's kind of a Karen here at the start of the podcast, or at the start of the movie. He's complaining to one of the attendants. There's someone weird in one of the bathrooms. Get him out. He doesn't have a ticket. He doesn't belong on the train with the rest of us. So the attendant, yeah, this is the homeless guy, right? They find the homeless guy in there.
Right, and we assume it's going to be the other bathroom, though. We assume it's going to be Zombie Lady that they open. But yeah, they end up opening this bathroom, and it's just a homeless man, on public transport, and he's just kind of having a mental episode, and he's basically just saying, like, they're all dead, they're all going to die, which, I mean, a little prophetic, yeah, crazy, yes, but clock's right twice a day or whatever they say. So he's right this time.
Yeah, he's the crazy Ralph in Friday the 13th. The camp's got a death curse, you're all going to die. He's the one warning them. Everyone on this train is going to die.
He's our harbinger.
He is. There you go. Just like in Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
So yeah, the homeless guy who snuck onto the train, and this old businessman's like, get him out of here, he doesn't belong. And so he's throwing around his weight. He will do this the whole movie, this old asshole who, again, like Jessi said, one of the most despicable villains in a movie ever. Like, every time I watch this movie, I want to punch this guy by the end.
Oh, I know. I have one sentimental moment for him, and that's just because I think I'm too nice of a person. To be honest, I don't think he deserves my nicety there.
Well, at one point, okay, so Suan sees this homeless guy in the bathroom, and the old guy kind of ruffles her hair and says, if you don't study in school, you'll end up like him. And Suan's like, my mom says people who say that are bad people, and he just laughs at her.
Yeah, foreshadowing much. But no, he's definitely a guy to throw around the fact that he's a businessman, he's an educated man, I'm better than you, etc., etc.
Okay, so Suan can't go into this one bathroom because there's a homeless guy in there, and we'll see the homeless guy later who becomes strangely important to the plot, even though we never hear his name.
He does, but he's very important.
Yeah, and then she wanders down through the train and other car to the next bathroom, which is basically near where the girl is transforming into a zombie. So there's a very real danger Suan is going to be the first victim when this girl zombifies. But first, she has to meet the tough guy. This is my favorite guy in the movie. Kind of explain this guy who meets Suan outside the bathroom.
Oh, he's my favorite too. I'm glad you said that. I was like, I really hope you don't hate him or something. So she walks up to the bathroom and he's standing outside the women's restroom and he's like, no, she starts to go in, Suan does. And he's like, no, you can't go in this one. And she just kind of gives him a funny look and he's like, two are in there or something to that effect. Two are in there. It's going to take some time. Go down to that one. So he sends her down to the next car to use the restroom. And we are introduced to, this tough guy. And then who comes out of the bathroom is his very pregnant wife.
Okay, yeah. So this guy, big, strong Korean dude, looks like a professional wrestler, big, tough guy. He's got a pregnant wife who is pregnant with his first baby. He's very protective of her. He will kind of be an antagonist/protagonist through this movie, but you'll love him by the end. But yeah, at the start, all we know is he's protective of his wife. He's basically guarding the bathroom as she's in there taking a dump or whatever.
Yeah, and he seems kind of like he likes to cut up, like he's kind of a sarcastic guy because he kind of makes some little comment to her in the first little bit. So, you kind of get that general sense of him, and you kind of get the typical pregnant wife gist from her.
Yeah. And again, I don't know this guy's name. I'm just going to call him Tough Guy because that's all I have in my notes.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. I'm not going to put you on the spot again to pronounce another Korean name.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's mentioned. I'm sure it's probably mentioned at least once. But again, it's one of those probably if I wasn't paying attention, I'd miss it.
Okay, yeah. Later in the movie, he'll be the big muscle. He's the one fighting off the zombies, so we'll remember him. So,
oh yeah.
With all these characters, we've met all the characters now, the good and the bad, everyone who's going to be important to this movie. Now the zombie attack starts, kind of in the back of the train. The girl who was run on is in the bathroom. She collapses out into the hall, and one of the stewardesses runs over to help her. She's like, "Miss, are you okay?" This girl's like convulsing and twitching, and kind of explain the transformation into the attack, because this is a fun scene.
Oh man. So this as Mario said, like this stewardess basically runs up to this woman who passed out. It's like she's having a seizure. She is convulsing on the floor. The stewardess is like phoning it in saying, "Hey, we've got a medical emergency come. She's seizing. I can't get her to stop." And then she like stops breathing at one point. The stewardess kind of moves in front of her. She's radioing and talking to her, or talking, to the other stewardesses over the radio. And you just kind of see behind her the lady that was just on the ground, our victim X, or our patient 0. You see her do this convulsing acrobatic deer twitch, the same twitch the deer did, and stand up using her head basically, and then bite into the stewardess's neck.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed when these patients convulse and then die and then turn into zombies instantly, I think what happens, why it looks so unnatural, if you pay real close attention, it looks like the director takes out frames of the film to make it more unnatural, their movements.
That would make sense, like cinematography wise, sure, yeah.
I was thinking that's why it looks weird. They lurch up and it's very unnatural. And she immediately plunges her teeth into the stewardess's neck. So now all of a sudden we have a zombie attacking a stewardess. And if you guys know your zombie physiology, the minute one person is bit, now they become a zombie, and now it spreads like, let's just say COVID, perhaps how something spreads from one train car quickly into the next train car.
Oh, yeah, exponential growth at its finest.
Yeah. So just absolute chaos here with the first attack when the stewardess gets bitten and all the people hear this commotion. They turn around and they see one zombie eating a woman. And then all of a sudden now there's two zombies, and now the two come rushing into the next compartment. And I think if I recall, the first compartment they hit is all the baseball players, all the baseball team.
I think you're right. It's honestly really hard to keep track of the next 2 minutes of film.
Yeah. We'll try to be vague. Let's say they attack the baseball team. The baseball team is caught unaware. A lot of them are bitten and eaten, and they become zombies. And basically everyone in the back of the train starts running in terror towards the front of the train, in between the cars. And this is very important. There's glass doors that open and close in between the cars. This will become very important to the plot, so remember that. So everyone's running forward through these glass doors trying to get away from the zombies that are now taking over the train from the rear.
Yes, and basically, like, to break down the train car just super quick, it's basically like a train car, and on each end of that train car is a glass door, and I believe that that's connected to, like, a bathroom area on each side, and then to another train car on that side, basically, right?
Something like that. I've never been on a KTX, but that's what it looks like, yeah.
It appears there's, like, a bathroom, basically. It's kind of like a little interim between every train car, which kind of also becomes important later. And then those are separated by these completely glass see-through doors, with these like twist handles. They're very techy, very like streamlined handles. You just kind of twist them and the door open, like you just pull the door open. It's not a typical door latch or anything like that.
Yeah, it will become important because we'll figure out later the zombies don't know how to work these latches, so it becomes important. If you can get a door between you and a zombie, you're okay for the interim anyway.
Yeah, they're not smart enough to do basic mechanics, so that's a zombie plot. That's good to know.
Yes. We've introduced running zombies. We have not introduced mechanical zombies yet. That's good.
No, not in this one. No, not in this lore anyway. These zombies do not know how to open doors despite having opposable thumbs, so...
Okay, so all the people in the back start rushing forward. Some of the baseball team survives. Some of the passengers, there's an old woman, they stand up. They're like, oh my goodness. So people start running forward. They don't know. There's a commotion in the back. They don't know what it is. They just know everyone's screaming and running towards the front. So they all start running to the front. And I think what happens is the very last people, the last four people at the back of the train before they shut themselves off safely, are the dad. The dad is woken up. He's found Suan. And then the big tough guy and the pregnant woman. And those are the last four. And the tough guy's kind of like fighting off these passengers, zombies, as everyone's rushing forward into the front cars to safety.
Yes, it's the four of them kind of like towards the back, and then like you said, they've completely ran all the way to the front. I mean, it's basically like somebody yelling fire. You don't know what you're running from, you just know to run, and there are literally it's so chaotic. There are people to your left getting bit, your right getting bit, and you have Big Muscle Man fighting everybody off to protect his pregnant wife, and you have the dad clutching Suan in his arm, and they're trying to run with the people away from the horde of zombies that is now starting to exponentially accumulate behind them.
Exactly, yeah. And again, we're trying not to be bogged down too specifically because there's a lot going on all at once. I can't really explain it. Just a lot of chaos. And basically, the dad grabs Suan, and they all run with the people in front. And they end up in like train in car. I don't know the number, but within the first half of the train, there's a glass door. Everything behind this glass door is going to be safe. They all run behind it. And as the dad gets there into the safe area, he closes the glass door behind him and locks out the tough guy and the pregnant wife.
Yes, because the big suit angry asshole man is yelling at him to close the door. But I mean, it's also... I think everybody's general mentality at that moment was to close the door because the zombies were coming and nobody was thinking about the pregnant man and the muscle man, or the pregnant woman and the muscle man, sorry. but that is definitely a point of contention. But they do open the door. They do let in the muscle guy and the pregnant woman into the safety of the car right in the nick of time before the zombies come. And they do manage to get that glass door shut and in between them.
Okay, yeah, so a lot of the plot starts right here with the people in the front of the train are safe, the people in the back of the train are all zombies or about to become zombies, and there's a glass partition, a door that is you can slide it shut and it does a little click, and so all the zombies rush forward to this glass door and they can't seem to get through it, and the big tough guy's holding the door shut, and the dad says, I don't think you have to hold the door shut. Look, they don't know how to operate that door. And so they all kind of take a step back, and the zombies are like throwing themselves against this glass door, but they cannot figure out to click the little handle to open it. So we have some temporary safety at least.
Yeah, I mean, they are literally acting on brute force and go, go, go mode. No cognitive ability at all. Zero.
Yeah, and this is important to the plot. It's all vision based. They will attack what they can see, but that's it. They apparently can't smell. And this is very important later in the movie.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So is the pregnant woman? The pregnant woman is the one who does something smart here to shut off their vision.
She does. She grabs a bottle of water and some newspapers and starts to cover up the big glass door that is separating the zombies and all of the people that are safe. And lo and behold, the zombies stop trying to bang at the door. They stop trying to get in because they can't see them anymore.
That's right. You block the zombies' vision. They can't see you, out of sight, out of mind. They have no idea who they were attacking. So the zombies are all confused back there in the back of the train because they can't see through the newspaper. And this is where the tough guy who has been locked out by the dad in the movie, the tough guy turns to the dad and says, hey, asshole, you tried to kill us. And the dad says, well, I was just trying to, make it safe for everybody. And he's like, yeah, but we were still out there, asshole. I ought to kick your ass. So there's going to be a lot of, a little bit of conflict between these two for most of the movie over this incident.
Oh, yeah, they got off on the wrong foot. And I don't think you want to have a bad first impression with your potential allies in a zombie apocalypse, but they did. So.
And this will become an important plot in the movie, a plot point that, the safety of one versus the safety of the group. And this becomes very big later in the movie. What's most important, protecting everyone or protecting yourself?
Oh, yeah. Whether you're being selfish or selfless, that's a big ethical question of the movie. Yeah.
Okay, so all the people are safe in the front now. They're protected from the zombies in the back by this glass door that's covered with newspaper. And this is where the conductor comes over the intercom and says, due to the situation, we will no longer be stopping at the next station, which is Cheonan or something like that. And everyone panics. And this is where the asshole, the old business guy in the suit, says, no, we need to stop there. And he starts throwing his weight around. We are on a schedule. We must stop at the next station.
Yeah, and he just gets the he just basically gets the response from the conductor saying, well, I've got all of these reports saying that we can't stop. We're not going to be able to stop, so we're not going to stop.
Yeah. So this will be a power struggle between the old guy in the business suit and the conductor. We'll come back to them later. Sad moment here that I kind of forgot was in the movie where the dad calls up his mom at home. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Because there's these reports on the news, on the TV, on the train that there's these riots all over Korea. And he calls his mom, and his mom is sounding maybe not so good. Perhaps she's been bitten by somebody in some sort of a incident.
Yeah, it really does break your heart when you go back and listen to it. But he calls his mom, and his mom's just kind of like, are you okay? Is Sue-Ann okay? And he's like, yeah, we're fine. We're, as fine as everything, I guess, can be, what's going on. And she does sound bit, and the phone call kind of ends with, I believe, her calling his ex-wife a bitch and turning into a zombie.
Yes, that's what you want your last words to be, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's what really was in her heart in her last moment, was how much she didn't like her ex-daughter-in-law, so,
Okay, here's the exact quote. She says, Sok-woo, my baby, please take care of Soo-won. Goodbye. Oh, I love her so much. I love Soo-won, but she only wants her mom. That bitch. So, there's your deathbed quote right there.
And then insert growl there.
So his mom has died, the grandma. So Now stuff's starting to get real, and all these reports again, there's TVs on the train. They can see the news that there's riots all over Korea. They're like, what is going on? So no one seems to know exactly what is happening yet.
No, and it looks like the government has come on and is doing like a public announcement saying, don't believe the rumors, don't believe what you're seeing. And it cuts to everybody on the train looking at their phone, looking at Google, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and it's basically the headlines. They're all zombies, zombies, zombies. So people know what it is. People are using the right words. Like, I was very proud to actually have people in a zombie movie calling them zombies.
Well, it's funny you notice that, because I was going to say I never hear them use the word zombie in the movie, but I never looked up the headlines.
When I was watching it with subtitles, it just says zombies in headlines, hot topic zombies or something. It translates the pictures. I don't know. It translates the words on the screen.
That's right, it did. You're right, yeah.
So some of the headlines and some of the text messages, it'll translate. So that's the only reason I knew that. But and so you see a bunch of clips, and it looks like, clips you would see on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, of just people getting bit, of riots, crazy zombie stunt, what you expect,
There's one shot in particular here, and I do have to say, you mentioned it earlier. The CGI in this movie is unbelievable. And a lot of the times you don't even notice it's CGI. That's how good it is. There's a couple shots later I didn't realize were CGI. But there's a shot here of all these helicopters, military helicopters, flying over a city in Korea, and these bodies fall out of the helicopter and they bounce on the ground. And the minute they bounce on the ground, they instantly transform into zombies, pop right up and start attacking whoever's nearby. That's such a cool shot.
It is insane. Yes, it's like this skateboarding video, like these kids are just doing a skateboarding video, and they tactically drop zombies on them, basically. It is a wild shot of these helicopters with zombies hanging off, like Arnold Schwarzenegger style, and then just drop. It's a cool shot, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, lots of cool stuff here. Just chaos all over, and I think we're going to go to the first station. I'm not even going to try to remember the names of all these stations, but the first station, the conductor says we can't stop here. They told me it's not safe. The old guy in the suit's like, no, we have to stop there. But the conductor is right, because as they slow down into the approach of the new station, all these passengers start pounding on the windows, and they're instantly eaten from behind by zombies.
Oh yes, I mean, still utter chaos. Everything that was on the news translated to real life before their eyes. It's depressing. It's people begging for their lives, get eaten by zombies, instantly turn into zombies. Again, exponential growth of these zombies. But there's no way in hell they are stopping at this station.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't stop right in the devil's den. Just keep going to the next station. Perhaps the next one will be better. And so this is where the conductor says, we will be stopping at the next station, which is called Daejeon. He said, I've been told it's safe. It's under quarantine. The military's there. Everybody can get off. So the next station, we're all good. So everyone's kind of relieved. And this is where we get some character development as they're going to the station, where we start to meet some of these characters a little bit. The old women. The old women is the first one.
So the old women, I believe, does she try to give her a hard-boiled egg?
When they're first boarding, the two old women, these sisters, are sharing a hard-boiled egg.
Okay, that was the very beginning. My bad. Okay, but yeah, it was like a very odd thing to share. I don't know.
I'm sure it's a Korean custom we're not aware of, where you share hard-boiled eggs on trains. I don't do that personally, but more power to them. That's what they do.
People eat hard-boiled eggs, but I've never heard it. It's not a shareable dish, in my opinion, but to each their own.
Yeah, so what happens is that these old women are standing up, and Suwon, the little girl, is sitting down, and she's like, you can sit down here. My grandmother always has bad knees, and she's like, I know you want to sit down. And they're like, what a nice little girl. So we learn that Suwon, of course, thinks of others, and this is where you said one of them sits down, and I think she tries to give Suwon a hard-boiled egg, and that's her prize.
She tries to give her some gift, and I'm not really sure. It's never really, we don't ever get an explanation of what she does try to give her. But she does try to give her some token to appreciate, respecting your elder and giving her seat up for this elderly lady. And so, like you said, we do learn that she is a very kind little girl, and she does think of other people.
Yes, which her dad immediately scolds her for.
Yes. Well, I can't blame him in a zombie apocalypse, but I get the point of the movie, and she is a little girl. But yes, he immediately says, no, in this kind of a situation, you have to think for yourself. And I think that really goes to show, like, these two mentalities that are going to be at play here.
Yeah, it's more his character arc than hers, that he's instantly like, think of yourself, survival, do not give up your seat to an old woman. And Suwon's like, but her knees hurt, she needs it. So we're going to see him switch more towards her mentality as it goes along, which is kind of cute.
Yes, and I mean, in the least way you would expect it in a zombie apocalypse. It's, when the Grinch's heart grows or whatever.
Yeah. So, and now we have the scene. This is really important. This is a big one where Suwon is kind of left by herself, the little girl. Her dad has to go make some phone calls. He's got to try to figure out what's going on at these stations. And Suwon is left with the tough guy and his pregnant wife. And they have a wonderful little bonding moment where the two of them talk to Suwon because, again, they're about to have a baby. They're about to become parents. And the mom is kind of maternal towards Suwon. And this is going to be a really important relationship in this movie.
It is such a cute little relationship. And so, yeah, he goes off to make a phone call, I guess, in the bathroom, and they're all kind of waiting outside, the pregnant lady, the muscle man, and Suwon. And he asks her, like, is that your dad? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, is that your real dad? Which I find a weird question just to somebody you've never met. And she's like, yeah. And then his wife kind of hits him, and he's like, why would you say that? And he's like, I was just wondering. And then he goes on to ask, like, what does he do for a living? And she lets him know that he's a fund manager, and his immediate reaction is to go, oh, he's a bloodsucker then. And, again, his wife's like, don't say that in front of the kid. And he's like, it's so funny. I love her reaction. She's like, no, people say that all the time.
Yeah, my dad's kind of a dick. Yeah, it's well known. Thank you.
Yeah, we know this. I'd say it too if I was old enough, basically.
He got me a Wii that I already had, so I'm aware my dad's a dick. Thank you.
God, yeah, it's a cute little relationship, yeah, that kind of builds, and they kind of have a little chuckle over all of that. So.
Yeah, and this scene ends with the pregnant wife. She's kind of maternal towards little Suan because she's going to have a baby too. So she offers her a gummy worm and they start talking. Yeah. And so she's like, I have a baby inside my stomach and you want to touch my stomach? And so Suan rubs the stomach and they have a nice little moment. And the tough guy points to his wife's stomach and says, I made that. And the wife's like, you asshole.
And he's like, well, I did. And they all just start laughing. So it's goofy, and it kind of does build some character development for, we don't have a whole lot in this movie. Not a ton we don't get to know these characters a lot, but it's little interactions like this.
Well, yeah, and this one is particularly important because it's got a payoff later where Suwon asks, what's your baby's name? And the wife says, well, I don't know. My husband has not come around to coming up with a name. Apparently the dad just picks the name in Korea. And she's like, so whenever he tells me, that'll be the name. He's been lazy.
Yeah, they call him Sleepy. That's the baby's name.
He's one of the 7 dwarves.
I was like, you really named it after a dwarf? Okay.
Could have been Doc. Could have been worse.
Yeah, I guess Dopey. You don't want to call your baby Dopey or whatever.
Sneezy. Sneezy's in there.
That would be goofy, yeah.
But yeah, so that's the relationship that the mom here is kind of bonding with Suwon because she's going to be a mom and Suwon needs a mom. And not to spoil it a little, but this will become very important later in the movie. So file that away.
Put that in your noggin for later.
Yeah. So the dad, Suwon's dad, is off making phone calls, and he finds out this next station, Daejeon, is considered a safe zone. He's talking to one of his friends on the phone who's kind of in the know, and the guy's like, yeah, Daejeon, that's supposed to be the good station. The military's there. But he does warn the dad. He's like, when you get off the train, they're going to put you in quarantine. And the dad's like, no, that's not good. That's dangerous. That's not good. And the guy says, well, there's a secret entrance when you get to Daejeon. Go to the east entrance. Don't go where everyone else is. I'll get you some credentials. You can slip past the quarantine. So already the dad is still thinking of himself as opposed to everyone else on the train. He's got secret info nobody else knows.
Right, and he's, kind of using his power to get things that maybe other people don't have access to, kind of reminiscent of, the other evil businessman that we talk about, so.
Yeah, I saw one review that pointed that out, that the old guy, the evil business old guy in the suit, is really just this dad in 30 years.
I thought that. I thought this is like the Ghost of Christmas Future kind of thing. Like if you don't change your ways, like that's kind of that's the vibe I got. That's the vibe I got too.
Okay, and with that, we are going to set the stage for one of the great scenes in this movie, the Daejeon station with the military zombies. Are you ready for this one?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So explain this one. They stop at the station. This is the first really big action sequence in the movie, a really big one. There's a lot of CGI and extras in this scene where they get there and the station is all abandoned. They're looking around. They're like, what about the military escort? Aren't they supposed to meet us here? So walk us through what happens when they get off and go explore the station.
Okay, so yeah, like you said, they pull up to a very quiet train station, which red flag number one, guys. But they all get off this train. They start meandering into the actual station itself. The business guy just kind of starts running. So that's I guess he wanted to be ahead of everybody else. But anyway, they start going into this train station, and they are all going towards one direction, toward the main entrance, where I'm assuming that there's going to be a quarantine. They're all looking for the military. And again, it's quiet. There's nobody around. The dad and Suan do decide to go a different way, because of the information that his friend had told him to go to a different exit. They do cross through some restricted areas. It's important to note that the homeless man does try to follow them here. He did overhear him on the phone.
Well, let me insert one thing before you do the rest.
Yeah, of course.
So when they get pulled aside, they go to this special little area, and Suan's like, why are we going here where nobody else is going? And Dad's like, shh, don't tell anyone. And the homeless guy's following them. And Suan says, doesn't everyone want to come here? This is the good entrance. And he's like, no, it's just for us. And she has a very poignant quote here. This is a gut punch of a quote. Suan says, you only care about yourself, Daddy. That's why Mommy left.
I know, and it's, oh my gosh, like your kid just hit you like in the throat or in the heart with why you got divorced. Like that's not nice. But it's gut wrenching. It's brutal. Kids are brutal.
Yeah. All right, continue. We're about to up to the attack.
Okay, yes, sorry. So they do start to divert and to go this different way, and this homeless man starts to follow them. And so it's going to kind of cut back and forth between two scenes. So we have the main group that starts to head down towards this escalator. And there's a staircase. Anyway, they are descending down into where we see a bunch of military men. And at that time, it kind of cuts back to the dad and Suan, and we see this guy in the distance who is also military, and they start running to him for help. So, like I said, this scene kind of cuts back and forth. Back to the escalator. They're going down. Military guys, we think that they're, going to be saved. And it turns out that it is a pack of zombies. They are literally cattle leading themselves into hungry beast.
Yeah, and let me point out, this is not like 10 soldiers. How many soldiers would you estimate are waiting for them at the bottom of that escalator?
Oh my gosh. Oh, hundreds. Hundreds. It had to be hundreds. I mean, they CGI'd in hundreds at least. At least from later on, I would have to suggest it's an endless sea of feral military personnel, yes. And patrons, I'm assuming civilians and everybody else like that.
Yeah, so that's what you really want in a zombie movie. You've had these zombies on the train who are passenger zombies. Now you have about 100 times more zombies, except now they're highly trained military zombies who are about to turn and run at you as you try to go back up a down escalator.
Oh, I know. That's what got me was you're on an escalator. It's not even stairs. And that was a big fear and a big thing about that part of the movie. When I first watched it, I was like, wait, they're on an escalator. What are they gonna do? So immediately, the only people, well, there's a few people who are on the escalator that we care about that are main characters. But the big muscle man and his pregnant wife, he throws her over the escalator and they start to run up the staircase. I believe the high school kids in them are hop over and start running up the staircase. We don't really see the older women in this section. I can't really recall what happened to them.
Let's just summarize it this way. There's a lot of people that are going to die very quickly at the bottom of that escalator.
Yes, I mean it's literally like they're being led to slaughter. I don't know another way to put it. And there's just a massive amount of people running, and it's again chaos. A lot of people dying, and you're just trying to see, okay, well, who's left after this scene's over?
That's all you really care about. You can't care about all these characters. There's too many deaths. But yeah, this is this is a feeding frenzy of zombies, soldier zombies attacking all these poor passengers. The hapless ones at the top of the escalator have a chance to turn around and run back to the train. We cut over to the dad and Suan. They're going to get attacked from their angle. And this is one of my favorite moments in the movie. I just love the way this is shot, where zombies are coming at everybody from two different angles. And the dad turns around and he sees right in the middle of both angles is Suan all by herself. His daughter's about to get nailed by zombies from two different sides. And it's horrifying. He screams and starts running at her in slow motion. And this is a really heart-wrenching moment here.
Oh, I know, and she just kind of stands there because I don't think she's very aware of, what's going on. I mean, how much do any kid really going to understand in any situation like that? But yeah, you see like zombies slow-mo coming at her two different ways, and her dad is just screaming and running full force back at her because he had left her at the end of one hallway while he was going towards the homeless gentleman and what he perceived to be a soldier for help, who was a soldier but was about to turn into a zombie. So anyway, so he's running back from that, and it's this epic zombie trying to get her seen, and they don't get her. She does get saved, so that's great.
That's right. By an unlikely hero. And this is the thing, like, from the beginning of the movie, the tough guy and the dad don't like each other because the dad locked the tough guy out of the door, calls him an asshole. But in the heat of the battle, the tough guy could have run back to the train, but instead he runs right towards Suan and protects her. A zombie's just about to grab her. This tough guy elbows the zombie out of the way and starts beating the crap out of him. And basically, the pregnant wife grabs Suan. So the couple that the dad isn't really friends with save his daughter. It's like one of the nicest moments in the movie.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got such he's got almost more of a father instinct for her in that moment than her own father actually did.
I just love the way that scene is shot, where the tough guy comes out of nowhere. At the last minute, just elbows the zombie in the face.
Yeah, you just see his arm like whoosh.
Yeah, it's again, the whole second half of this movie is protect Suan. Everyone's instinct is to protect this little girl who's going to be near zombie feed many times in the second part of this movie.
Oh, I know. It's literally like you said, it is protect Suan at all costs.
That's right. So, yeah, so basically, all the people that were lucky enough to be at the top of the escalator start running to the train. They're going to make it back just fine. And then there's the second wave of people who were a little closer to being eaten. And this is Suan, her dad, the pregnant wife, the baseball team, the tough guy. They're going to be forced to this one glass door. There's a glass door that protects the escalator from the train platform, and they have to hold this glass door shut and barricade it with baseball bats to protect it to protect the train from all this rush of zombies.
Yeah, which is an epic scene. Another lot of CGI, a lot of tough, the big tough guy and the dad are pushing on the door. They're trying to get it to lock, and it's this epic kind of struggle. They do eventually get it to lock, and right as they start running away, it starts to break, and the wave of zombies comes flooding in, and it's literally they are rolling in.
Yeah, there's two really famous CGI shots she's talking about. The first one is a big mob, a wave of zombies crashing through a glass door as they all just lean against it. And there's another shot later when they're all down in the train, running onto the train. There's a window up above them, right above the train, with all these zombies pressing against it. And they fall through the window as well, and they just start bouncing like a pinball machine off the train. Bounce, 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 and they come to life and start attacking.
Yeah, because I mean, again, it's that pure instinct of go, go, go. There is no thought, and it's okay. Window, go through window, go, and they just ping ponged off. It was like hell.
That must have been a fun scene to shoot, because I know there were some stuntmen, there's some practical effects, there's double jointed actors, there's acrobats, there's stunt people doing all these crazy stunts. It's just my wife was laughing just looking at all these zombies doing crazy acrobatics.
That would have to be cool. That would have to be some cool behind the scenes, yeah.
I also forgot that there's a great scene where the very first people who get back to the train, you remember, the train it was safe in the front and dangerous in the back with all the zombies, and the first people to get to the train open the back doors, not the front doors, and they let out all the train zombies too. So now it's a triple threat.
I would like to think I would have better judgment in a situation like that. I can't say for certain. I'm not in that situation. But come on, y'all. This is literal life or death, and you did it wrong.
So there's a lot of bad choices being made as we're going to lose like 80% of the train passengers in the sequence. And basically what's going to come down to is most of the passengers that survive end up at the front of the train, and we'll find out train in car 15. The two old women are going to be split, the sisters. One ends up in car 13, one in 15. And then Suwon will end up there with the pregnant woman. It's basically all women, all kind of weaker women in car 13. It's the majority of the people in 15, and then these tough guys that are holding the door, protecting the train. This is the dad, the tough guy, the baseball team. They're barely going to get out with their lives, and they're going to end up in the very back of the train in car 9, I think.
Yeah, and that's also a cool scene where they're trying to get on the train. The last three guys, the dad, the tough guy, and the last remaining baseball player trying to get back on the train. There's this epic chase the train, and like he grabs some police like riot gear, and that's going to be important later. So, they do have a little bit of equipment, and they do make it back on the end of the train. So, like you said, we've got three groups of people here, and basically the three in the back are trying to get to the women in the middle, because how do they know that they're there? She calls him, doesn't she?
Yeah, okay, so what happens is, so this is the entire second half of the movie. There's three groups of people on the train. The ones in the front, this is the old suit guy telling the conductor, go, we gotta go, don't wait for the survivors. And the girl, the baseball team cheerleader's like, my boyfriend's back there, he saved us, he's blocking the door. And they ignore her and they start moving the train without her. They will ignore her. And so we'll have these people in the front, the leaders, and then the four weaker women in the middle, and then the three tough guys in the back. And the four weaker women in the middle, the problem they face is all the glass doors are shattered on trains 12 and 14 on either side of them. So there's nothing protecting them from the zombies. And so they end up hiding in a bathroom, and the zombies hear them, and the zombies rush out and surround their bathroom on the outside. So they're trapped, and they start calling for help, and the pregnant wife calls her husband in the back, please come save us, we're surrounded by zombies, we have no way out of here, we need help. That's what happens.
Yes, and they're like, what train are you in? And she says it, and he's like, okay, that's only, how many away are they? 5 away?
4 cars away.
4 away. Yeah, he says, okay, well, that's only 4 cars away. Let's go.
Yeah, this is a real poignant scene. This is a big part of the movie. There's going to be action-packed for the next 30 minutes or so with these three. It's just the tough guy, it's the dad, and one of the baseball kids with a bat. The three of them have to go through 4 cars of zombies to rescue these women in a bathroom, including Suwon, the daughter, and the pregnant wife. So, they have a very emotional stake. And, so there's a big moment here where they have to arm up because they know they're going to be fighting through four carts of zombies just to get up to the women.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes, definitely in this movie, and I think it's one of the most epic fight scenes in a zombie movie. But the baseball kid just kind of pulls down some supplies that I guess that they had. It almost looks like a batting, pitching machine thing. I'm not really sure. He pulls down some supplies. They start wrapping up their arms. They have a baseball bat. They have the riot shield and the baton that Muscle Man grabbed on his way back to the train. And they do a really smart thing. They tape up, at least Muscle Man does, he tapes up his forearms because he's going to be in the front and basically be a tank.
Yep, he's a dwarf. He's the dwarf. He goes to the front of the party.
Yeah. So he's going to be the one who takes all the hits for the party, but we don't have a healer in this situation, right?
No. All we have is the tank in the front, we have the baseball kid with the bat in the middle, and in the back is the dad, the fund manager, who Mr. Tough Guy, Muscle Guy says, I hear you're a fund manager. You're clearly an expert at leaving useless people behind, so you go in the back.
Jeez. And it's all these pointed comments the whole time. And the thing is you can't bitch at each other right then because you're literally having to count on each other to survive. So the dad just kind of has to take it and blow it off and be like, okay, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so we start in car 9. They're in 9. It's backwards. I noticed that when looking at the train. You think it would go 1 through 20 from the front to the back, but it's actually 1 through 20 from the back to the front.
Oh.
Because they're in 9 and they're going forward to 13.
Okay. Cool.
If you're keeping score at home on your little scorecard or something.
I was not. I totally didn't even pay any attention to the car numbers. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah. That's what I do. I'm the detail guy here.
Good.
So, okay, so they start in 9, they're going up to 10, and this is the first battle you said where they get all armed up like the A-team and they're going into battle and just basically them just pummeling the crap out of zombies in car 10.
Yeah, I mean they're literally barehanded. They've got like a baseball bat and a baton, and other than that, they are just kicking, punching, doing whatever they can to get from one glass door to the next glass door.
Yeah, and this is important because they couldn't have pulled this off back at the train station because it's too much of an open area. There'd be zombies hitting you from all sides. But on a train, it's a narrow aisle, so they have to attack you one by one like in a kung fu movie.
Yeah.
So they have a fighting chance when it's one by one against zombies.
Right, and especially with a guy like he's literally such a brute tank in the front, just deflecting them. They had a good setup. It was really combat ready. I approve of their tactic, and it worked. I mean, so they slowly start to make their way through these train cars, and they do make it through the first one successfully.
Yeah, they get through the first one, and then they get to the second one, and this is a little more challenging because now the baseball kid is fighting all of his baseball teammates who are now baseball zombies.
And again, another heartbreaking scene because literally his friends that he was just goofing off with, and he's facing them, and he essentially just freezes. I can't say I blame him. It kind of his motif, the whole thing is just to kind of freeze. And so it kind of puts the muscle man and the dad in a situation where they are, less equipped to handle these zombies. And so they do get overran. The dad gets pushed into one of the seats. The muscle man is also kind of fighting a couple of zombies and looks like they're about to get overran. The kid's just standing there with the baseball bat, and you're like, kid, come on, do something. Help these guys. And then they go into a tunnel.
Yeah, that's important. This is a big plot twist, the tunnel. So they're fighting these zombies, and all of a sudden, in the middle of this fight with these baseball zombies, the train goes into a tunnel. Remember, the train's moving. We're going to Busan at this point. And the minute they're in the tunnel, it gets all dark, the zombies stop because they can't see you. And the three guys are like, oh, we don't have to fight in the dark. These zombies are just looking around like they don't know what to do. And all of a sudden they think of, we have an advantage. If we wait for the tunnels, we can outsmart these zombies.
Yeah, they realize they can use sound. They some baseballs drop. They do a couple of things and realize they can manipulate where these zombies are going to be attracted to by using these tunnels and by depriving them of their sight. It's really smart. It's funny because I just kept thinking they're like birds. These zombies are you just throw a blanket over their head and they're like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? Like ostriches.
Just like ostriches. That's I had not thought of that analogy, but this is why you're the chemist. Yes.
They're feral ostriches, yes. But anyway, so it's an interesting plot point, and it's so anyway they have to go through these train cars, and now they know that they can use the tunnels to their advantage.
And I forgot to mention there's one other thing here too, the phone. There's a little phone trick they play on the zombies where if you're hiding from the zombies in the dark, you just take one of your phones and slide it to the rear of the car and then call that phone, and they'll all go rushing to the ringing phone, and you can just wander right past them in the dark. They won't even notice.
Yeah. I think that was the car after the baseball folk.
Yeah,
I
that's
believe.
It.
Yeah. And then he's like, no, wait, I've got an idea. Give me your phone. And then they do that. And then they do manage to get through that car as well successfully. So now they're through 3 cars. So they've only got, one more in between them. And
I think we skip a car because all of a sudden they're at the women.
Are they really? Okay, then yeah, we skipped a car.
We skipped a car. Somehow they fought through 4 cars. They get up to the women and they open the door, the bathroom door. They said, "Hey, it's us. We saved you." And Suan looks up and she sees her dad, and she can't believe her dad survived. She's like, now this is the first time she starts thinking of maybe her dad is a hero, and he kind of smiles at her. So it's a nice little moment, but it's only for a brief moment because then the train comes out of the tunnel, there's light, so the men have to duck into the next bathroom right across from them. So now this whole group is in 2 separate bathrooms waiting for the next tunnel.
Oh, yeah, it's a very tense moment. It's a very what's going to happen. But I think he pulled up his map on his phone.
The dad, yeah, he pulls it up. Yeah, he knows the train station maps.
Yes, and he pulls that up and he says he does some quick math in his head and says, okay, we've got 2 minutes at the next tunnel. We have 2 minutes from the time it starts to the time it ends, to get through however many cars they need to get through from here to meet up with the rest of everyone in the main car, the original people that made it on the train when it was leaving.
Yeah, so right after that moment, there's one more car that I gotta get through to get up to the front, and the baseball kid calls his girlfriend, hey, we're almost to your car. Make sure to let us in when we get there. And she's like, yay, she's so excited. And so the men take Suan and the pregnant wife. They crawl on these the luggage racks up on the sides of the train when it's dark. They get past the zombies in the last train, and they're just about to make it unopposed to the final car, to the safety car, except the homeless guy accidentally steps on a can and he alerts them. And all of a sudden, we got a big tense moment here where all the survivors from the back are rushing to the front to get to car 15 safety, but they're not going to be welcomed with open arms, much to their surprise.
Oh, yeah. It turns out that everybody in the front car, when he had called his girlfriend to let him know that they were coming, did not want them to come through. Basically, they were like, what if they're bitten? And this is all driven by, the business guy here, who's basically only out for himself. And he's sitting there thinking, we don't want them in. What if they're bitten? What if they're whatever? And so they use like this weird little system and tie off the door so that they're not able to open it. So even though they've made it through these zombies, they are now one train car. They're like one set of doors in between them and the safety.
Yeah, this sucks. This is a really heart-wrenching scene, and this is the first one. We're going to get a couple gut punches, so watch out, where our heroes are just one door away from safety, and the people in front will not let them in because the suit guy says no, they might be bitten, they've tied the door shut. They're like, let us in, and they're pounding their bat against the glass. Let us in. And the only thing keeping the zombies off of our survivors from behind is the tough guy, the muscle man, holding this one last door shut by himself, holding off about 70 zombies rushing against the door. He's like, why can't we get in? Let him in. Let us in. Let us in. And the suit guy will not let them in. And in all the chaos, the muscle man, the tough guy who's been our hero the whole movie, accidentally puts his hand on the door where the zombies are, and one of them bites him, and it's all over.
Yeah, it's a simple mistake, and he gets bitten, trying to hold off the door for everybody. And he's like on one end holding off the zombies, and they're on the other end, trying to beat down the door to try to get in. And basically, once he realizes he's bit, he tells the dad, who's also there trying to help him. He says, "Hey, go help them, take care of my wife, get out of here."
This is a really sad moment because this is the guy we didn't like at first, this big, tough, gruff guy, but he's been the hero beating up all the zombies. He single-handedly gets them all to safety. He gets bit. And we have, like I said, my wife mentioned the long gestation period where he has plenty of time to explain his motives and the plot to everybody. And then his wife starts crying. She's like, "Are you bit?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm bit, but go, run to safety. Leave me here. I don't want to turn into a zombie and attack you." And she starts crying, and he starts crying. And then the last thing he says is, "Our baby's names. Yoon Si-yeon, that's our baby's name." So that's the last thing he says before he dies.
Yeah, he at least gets to pick the baby's name, and he at least gets to hold off the zombie horde for everybody to make it to safety. So it's a good ending for our noble asshole. Well, kind. He's a kind guy. He's a nice guy. He's just a little bit of a smart ass. So.
Yeah, it's so the survivors break the glass, get in with the old guy, the old suit guy, and all the survivors in front. There's all this chaos and fighting, and why did you leave us out there to die? Why wouldn't you let us in? And in all the chaos, I kind of forgot to mention that there's these two old sisters, the old women. One of them's in the front, one was in the back group, and the one in the back cannot make it to safety because they've been holding the door shut, and she gets killed by the zombies. And this is gonna piss off her sister something fierce.
Oh, yeah, she was the one with the leg issues, and I don't think that she could just make it in time before the door shut, so she did get left behind, and her other sister takes it very personal. She does not like that her sister didn't make it. So basically everybody in the first train car, though, does kind of look at everybody who just came back, and it's like, hey, you guys, you got to get out of here. We don't want you here. We didn't want to let you in. You guys forced your way in. Get out. Go the other way and leave. We don't know who's bit. So there's a bunch of like them crying, commotion, and they basically say, okay, fine, we'll leave. And so the pregnant lady, the dad, Suan, and the baseball guy and his girlfriend leave.
I think the homeless guy too. The homeless guy's in there. Yeah, we have 6 characters left in the movie we care about, and they all are. Mr. Tough Guy has died, so they get exiled because everyone thinks they're infected. They get shoved in this vestibule in front of the train, and that appears not to be the place you want to be because now you're in exile. You're not allowed to be with all the other survivors, but it is quickly going to become the place you want to be because the old women, there's these 2 old women, again, one just died earlier because they wouldn't let her through the door. The sister is pissed. And so when the suit guy and all of his rabble-rousers are tying the doors shut so the exiles can't get back in, the old woman goes and just decides to let all the zombies into their car just so everybody's going to die.
Yeah, she had some heartfelt moment with her sister who she seemed to hate in life and then just let her in death. And I think it's funny, honestly. She just opens the door and in rushes all the zombies. And so, where they just kicked all of our 6 passengers out of just becomes a battlefield again, a slaughterhouse, and everybody in that car, seems to get killed.
Yeah, this is a really gnarly scene, and it's kind of fun because you like that all these people die. This is all the bad people dying that wouldn't let the passengers in, that they all get munched because the old woman gets pissed at him and lets in the zombies. And you just see it through a shadow in the glass door. You see people being thrown against the glass. You see blood. You just hear it, and you're like, oh, well, all the bad people just died, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah, and they all just kind of stare at the door like, oh, shit, maybe it was a good thing we weren't in there.
So at this point in the movie, we just have 6 characters left. I think the baseball guy and his girlfriend, the dad and Soo-won, the homeless guy and the pregnant woman, and then the conductor in the front. These are the 7. The mean guy in the suit, he will survive. We'll see him later. He's going to kill at least half of these characters, so don't worry.
Yeah, but he's weaseled his way into a bathroom to hide, so.
Yeah, he is going to be a really dastardly villain over the last 30 minutes. All right, so the last part of this movie is these 7 people in front just waiting to the train to get to Busan. And they're curious, is Busan going to be safe? Are we going to be okay there? And there's a really poignant scene where Soo-won tells her dad, she's like, you know, I'm scared. Are you scared? And he's like, yeah, I'm scared. Or is this? I don't know. But there's a whole dialogue here where she explains the whole thing about why she sang that song for him at the recital. I just want you to be there. I want you to love me. And he's like, I love you, Soo-won. I've always loved you. And so they start to bond. And again, this is going to be real heart-wrenching in about 20 minutes. So right before they get to Busan, you think this is the end of the movie, they're going to make it, and we'll find out if the train station is there, if it's safe, and they're all going to be okay. But there's a hiccup. Before we get to Busan, there's a blockage in the track ahead of us. And this is going to be a problem. They can't get to Busan because the conductor has to slam on the brakes and say, we need to get a new train. We can't keep going on this train.
Yes, he basically just comes over the intercom and says, hey guys, I'm going to go to the leftmost track. If you're alive, get over there, and Godspeed.
All right. Yeah, let me set you up for this one, because this is fantastic, the next 15 minutes of this movie. As much as they suck, they're also awesome. But, so the conductor, the old guy, has to walk through an abandoned rail yard to go find a new train they can take to Busan. So he's by himself, and he's like, meet me at the far left track in 15 minutes, Godspeed to you. So he's off on his own, and he makes it there fine. He finds a train. And now the people in the car, our 6 heroes, have to wander out and try to find the train that they're going to get on. And you think they're going to be okay, except they're going to be sabotaged by this old asshole suit guy who's going to basically get them all killed.
Inadvertently, on purpose, whatever, all of the above. Yeah, he does. So basically our 6 run out and they're starting to go through the train yard to try to figure out how to get to the safe train, the left train. And they find one car that doesn't have any zombies in it. So they're like, okay, hey, come here. And right as they do that, this giant flaming train car comes on the opposite track. Which we assume is just from the wreckage of everything going on, comes the opposite track, and the train that our heroic 6 were about to go through gets sideswiped by this fire train and gets turned on its side, basically. It's kind of like on its side, but like a T shelter. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, to give you a visual that our heroes, are 6 of us, the 6 of them are trapped underneath these 2 trains that are kind of collapsing in on them, and they're in a little air pocket underneath. A train could fall on them at any time from this runaway train, and they don't know where to go. The only 2 who are outside are the baseball player and his girlfriend, who are going to go get help. And just as they go to get help, oh my God, okay, let me set this up. So back on the original train, the suit guy has been hiding in a bathroom, the real selfish old guy who just wants to survive over anybody else. he realizes he has a chance to run to this new train. The first thing he does is he takes his buddy, the steward, pushes him to the zombies so he'll be eaten so the suit guy can run. The suit guy runs towards the baseball player and girlfriend, and they're just about to make it to safety until the suit guy gives their position away, and he takes the girl and he throws her to the zombies so she'll be eaten and not him.
Literally throws her behind him, and she's zombie food, and he breaks open this glass and runs, and the baseball player, they like Romeo and Juliet, he waits there while she dies, he bites her, they die, so they're out of the picture now, they're zombies. And so we see the businessman continues to go on and go towards the left train.
Yeah, so not only has the suit guy, the old asshole, killed his buddy, the steward on the train, then he kills the baseball kids, the couple.
Yeah.
Then he runs to the conductor who's starting to drive away in the new train. And as the old suit guy is running, he trips and falls on the track. The conductor sees him and says, "Oh, I'll go help that old man." When the conductor goes there, the old man takes the conductor and throws him to the zombies.
I don't think there's anybody he wouldn't have thrown to the zombies at this point.
Yeah. So he literally, when the last train, it's just one little engine, is going to Busan very slowly, the old man runs on it. He's the only one on there. He's the only one who's going to survive unless our four heroes trapped under the train can get to that last train now.
Yes, because even the heroic conductor, like you said, he literally just threw him off of everything. And our four heroic people are still trapped under a train, so we don't know how they're going to get here.
Okay, I could spend a good half hour talking about the next 5 minutes of this movie, but I will not because I don't want to make this a 3-hour podcast. But to make a long story short, there's 4 people left. Our 4 heroes. It's the dad, Suan, the pregnant wife, and this homeless guy who really you don't know why he's there. He's like a red shirt in Star Trek. Why is he still here in the movie? But as they're trapped underneath this little air pocket of trains, all these zombies are going to collapse in onto them through the windows, and the homeless guy will hold up a pipe and hold the zombie wall back so the dad and Suan can get away. So the homeless guy will sacrifice himself as the dad climbs out from the train, grabs Suan and the pregnant wife, and they run for their lives.
Yes, it's another very heroic sacrifice, and they run towards this train, and they do manage to get on the train, so it is those 3 and the businessman now on the train, but they don't know that he's on the train.
Yeah, you are correct, but you also yada-yada'd over the most iconic 2 shots in this movie.
Oh no, what did I yada over?
All right, so this is, again, if you look at the cover of this DVD or any poster of Train to Busan, you get the dad holding Suan and running for his life with the pregnant woman. They're all running with a horde of zombies behind them. That's the cover. That's one of the shots here. But the shot I want to talk about, which is so cool, is they're running and running and running, getting to the train, and every zombie in the train yard sees them, and they start running after them. And it will culminate in a shot. I have never seen anything like this in a horror movie. In fact, a lot of reviews pointed this out. This is like one of the all-time great iconic shots in a horror movie where the zombies grab the back of the train, but they can't get on, so they just start grabbing each other. And it starts forming a train of zombies pulled around the ground.
No, I know. Yeah, I guess I got a little confused. I thought they got on the train first and then that. But that is a crazy scene. It's like they're weighing down this train so much that it will not move. They're making this human mass, this human weight.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. You got to see it. Just Google this shot, the zombie train, the final scene in Train to Busan, if you just want to see it. It's a great CGI shot of it. Like an entire train of like 500 zombies all grabbing each other and being pulled behind a train, and they're slowing it down like an anchor. It's a great shot.
It's crazy. And I mean, like, how much those trains weigh, there have to be so many zombies.
Yeah. Just a fantastic shot. That's the jaw-dropping gasp moment in this movie when you see that for the first time. Wow, I've never seen so many zombies CGI'd onto one train before.
I mean, that's how I felt about the scene where they all break and, like, tumble in. It was one of those kinds of things, too. It's just there's some really good mass zombie CGI in there.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even look like CGI. That's why it's so good. You know it is. It has to be. But yeah, so it's the dad and Suan and the pregnant wife all get on the final train to Busan, and they're being slowed down by this zombie carpet that's dragged behind them. And the dad has to go down there and kick some hands off. And there's a great shot of one zombie comes flying at him. He does a little side swipe motion, and the zombie goes flying off into the distance and bounces off to the side. Just a wonderful zombie mayhem here.
Oh yeah. There's some really good action shots. Yeah, it's a cool little scene right there.
All right, so again, the movie should be over here. Our survivors are now all on a little engine just to Busan by themselves. It's the pregnant woman, the dad, and Suan. And you think it's just the three of them and the conductor, but it's not, because that fucking asshole old man in a suit is up running the train, and guess what? He's been bitten, and this is not going to end well for our heroes, sadly.
Oh, no, they open the conductor train door to go in, I guess, to look at the stopping and everything. And the old asshole man comes out. It's very clear he has been bitten. He's got all of the clear signs of it. And he's very delusional. He thinks he's a little kid trying to find his way home to Busan. It's the only little spot that I was like, oh, this poor guy, he thinks he's a little kid. But the dad looks at him and goes, no, you're infected. And he goes, what? No. And then that's it clicks, and he turns into a zombie and starts to attack the dad. And then you have this little epic fight scene between the asshole old man and the dad.
It's basically Obi-Wan against Anakin here, the lightsaber duel on the side of the train. But it's very sad because the good guys should win in this movie. They have it. If not for this old asshole who has betrayed everyone, they would make it. And the dad is fighting off the old man, the old zombie, and it's harder to do because he doesn't have weapons and they're on the side of a little train. There's not much he can do. But he does a good job until he falls down and the zombie hears Suan screaming and starts going after the little girl. And this is where it goes poorly.
Yes, and he runs up behind the guy. He grabs him behind the neck, and he's trying to wrestle him, and he puts his hand around his mouth to try to wrestle him back, and he clearly gets bitten right there. You can see it, and I think the dad knows it. And so he kind of backs up at this moment. There's a really cool scene where he wraps a chain around his waist. Because he's like, okay, I've got to get this zombie off. So he wraps his chain around his own waist and proceeds to throw the old man zombie off the train, but doesn't throw himself off because he's still kind of hanging there because he's there with the chain. And they pull him back up, and they hug and reunite, but it's kind of bittersweet because he did get bit.
Yeah, this is all right. I'm getting ready for the gut punch, and I'm going to work myself up to tears just from talking about it like I do when I watch it. But this is rough. So the last three people left in the movie are the pregnant woman and Suan and the dad. The dad has just heroically saved his daughter from the last zombie, but he's been bitten. He's got a huge bite on his hand, and he knows it's all over. And from here on out, Suan is screaming. And this is where I feel bad for this poor actress. I wouldn't say they abused her, but you have to get really deep into character to get to this level of emotional depth. And I don't know if I've ever seen a little 8-year-old get as raw as this girl gets right here.
And it's sad. It to hear her screams, I mean, I don't have children or anything like that, but it just as a human, it hurts you, to hear her, because it sounds so real and sounds so from the heart. So I don't know what they had to do to this child to make her scream like that, but
yeah, she's unbelievable. Yeah, this whole scene is just a kick in the nuts that, yeah, she knows her dad's been bitten, her dad's going to die, and she loves her dad. Her dad's her favorite person in the world. He just said he's going to protect her. I'll never leave you. And she's like, no, Dad, no. And the dad knows he only has a couple minutes until he turns into a zombie. So the first thing he does, he runs to the front of the train and he shows the women where the brake is. He's like, when we get to Busan, you have to pull this brake. And that's his really last piece of advice before it's just a total chaos now.
Yeah, I mean, he tells the pregnant lady, he says, take care of her. He talks to Sue-Ann and basically tells her he loves her very much. It's literally heart-wrenching. You have to watch it. He yanks her hand off, runs out the door, slams the door, and the pregnant lady's holding Sue-Ann while she's crying, and the dad is on the back of the train. He's knows he's going to turn into a zombie soon. He's kind of reflecting on his life. His memories are going back to when Sue-Ann was born, when she was, an itty bitty baby and all of that. And he's just sitting there smiling. You can see him turning into a zombie. And then there's really this kind of somber shot of him turning into a zombie, and you see his shadow just fall off the train.
Yeah, that's a rough one. So
yeah.
There's a couple details there I want to point out as well, that not only does, before the dad locks the two women in the train car, he tells the pregnant woman, please look after Suan, and she's going to need a mom, please look after her. Because I forgot that earlier they called the mom in Busan and they get no answer. So the implication is the mom might be dead too.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those unresolved ties. We're not really ever sure. But yeah.
So this pregnant woman, he says, look after my daughter. She's going to need a mom. She'll have no parents. But he also turns to Suan, his daughter, and says, look after her. Help her with the baby. She's going to need help. So you protect her. So he kind of tries to instill Suan, don't be scared. You're the protector now. But Suan is just not having it. This little 8-year-old is just screaming, don't go, don't go, don't go, please, please don't go, don't go. Just screaming her head off. And it's so hard to watch this goodbye.
Yeah. It's not fun. It's not a fun little scene. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, this is the one. Again, I watched this twice this week, and I have a daughter, and I don't want to fucking watch this scene. I hate this scene.
Right.
It's terrible, and I saw it twice this week. Like my stomach and eyes still hurt from this scene, so it is not good. But this is why this movie is so poignant, and why people say, "Damn, that movie packs a punch for a horror movie." It's this scene right here.
Yeah. And I mean, at least to that end, the movie does end well after that. There is a happy ending.
Yeah, so the dad kills himself so he won't turn into a zombie and eat Suan. You just see it in shadow, see him fling himself off the back of the train as suicide. Very sad, Suan screaming. And the end of the movie is just them somberly, the two women, just somberly sitting in the car, waiting to go to Busan, waiting to see if they'll be safe. Again, we don't know if they'll be safe. And the movie sets you up in a way where we almost get a Night of the Living Dead ending, which I would have fucking punched this movie.
I mean, if it hadn't done that, I would have still been like, okay, that's a fine ending, sure, if that's the way that you want to go. But
you don't have a daughter, Jessi.
I know, but I just think of the mist, and I'm like, well, all right, if you want to kill everybody, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, so the two women get to Busan and they stop. There's an army blockade there, and they get off, and they're like, is it safe? And there's a tunnel there, and they start holding hands, and they get off the train and they walk to safety, not knowing what's on the other side of the tunnel. What's on the other side of the tunnel, Jessi?
Snipers and the army.
And do the snipers immediately grant them clemency and say, let them in?
Oh, no, because all they see in their scopes are these two figures just kind of very slowly shambling down this tunnel.
Yeah. One of the general of the snipers says, oh, just shoot them. And the soldier's like, what? We don't know if they're humans. Oh, just shoot them. Doesn't matter.
Okay, if you're being safe, then sorry. I guess I can't blame him, but at the same time, you have to have some humanity. But I guess that's the whole point of this movie, right? So.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, like, I have in my notes here, oh, don't you even think of that movie. Do not shoot Suan in the last minute of this movie. Like,
oh my gosh.
They almost do it. That's where I thought they were going for Night of the Living Dead, where you shoot the hero at the end.
Gotcha. But they didn't.
Yes, much to Jessi's sadness, Suan survives.
Well, she starts singing the little song from the beginning as kind of like, I guess, the song in her recital that she didn't finish because her dad wasn't there. She ends up singing, and when they hear her singing, they realize she's a human and tell her, we've got survivors, shots off, and yeah.
I assume that's the same song. I don't know. Like, it's not the same part of the same song. So, like, I assume that's the same song. That would fit thematically. But I don't know my Korean/Hawaiian music well enough to know if that's the same song. But it appears to be.
The trivia suggests that it is. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Well, Jessi's going on record. There you go.
No. Yeah.
So it's actually a happy ending of the movie, even though everybody dies. But at the very end, the pregnant wife lives, and she's greeted by the soldiers. They take her into safety, and little Suan, who has lost her dad, maybe her mom too, has been through hell. She survives, but I guess it's a happy ending.
I mean, overall, it's a happy ending in the grand, like, in the scheme of horror movies, zombie movies, where typically not a whole lot of people survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a happy ending. I consider it one of the happier endings, yes.
And I would say if you know Night of the Living Dead, this last 5 minutes is such a cringe because you just expect that Night of the Living Dead ending. You know it's coming.
I agree. I really thought it was coming, Mario.
See, Jessi was cheering for it. This is the thing. I root for the dead animals. She roots for the dead little girl and the pregnant woman. This is our quirks.
No, you put those words in my mouth. That is not true. That is, no.
But anyway, yeah, so that is Train to Busan, a movie with some horrifically gut-punchy deaths towards the end. Again, not especially graphic or gory or anything. It's not going to gross you out, but you will not expect to be moved by a horror movie as much as this one. This is one I can't watch all the time. It's almost too much for me.
Yeah, even twice in a week was a little rough. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So once again, have I imagine I have not, but convinced you that this is maybe the greatest horror movie of the last 20 years?
No, I'm sorry, Mario. Can't go that far. I will still say it's a great zombie movie, and if you like zombie movies, you should watch it. If you like horror movies, you should watch it. If you don't like horror movies, you should still watch it.
All right. Well, Jessi will not be returning on Staff Picks. I'll announce that now. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, okay, well, fine then. That's the one rule is I can't say no to your zombie picks, huh?
No, well, I think a lot of this just comes down to I just don't really love zombie movies. And like this isn't the most traditional zombie movie. So if you really love zombie movies, yeah, this is not your typical one. But the fact that there's actually a zombie movie that I love, that's why I'm so enamored by it. But it's perfectly acceptable if you like other ones more. That's fine, as long as you admit it's a good movie.
It's a very good movie. It is very good. It's very top tier. Yeah.
All right, take it from the banjo herself.
From the yes. Deal.
Yes, but again, this is not by any stretch of the imagination a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is absolutely blasphemous to me. That in 27% of people that saw this took the time to say they don't recommend it.
No, I completely agree. Like, there's always going to be haters, but it should definitely be in the 90s, and maybe your podcast can push it up there.
We'll see. Yeah, I'll get it up to at least 74.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Train Busan or zombie movies or Korean names you can't pronounce before we sign off here?
The only thing I have to say is if you're going to watch this movie, I wouldn't suggest watching it dubbed. Watch it subbed. I've heard the voice actors aren't very good when they're in English, but I don't know.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I should check it out. I have the DVD. I wonder if you can watch it dubbed on there.
See, I don't know. I couldn't find it, but that's just what I read on the internet, and I was just like, okay, well, not even going to try it, so.
Oh, now I'm curious. Maybe that's why it's only 73%. They watch the dub version.
You know, it could be. It could be.
They all sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They have Austrian accents.
But they said the little girl's voice was off. I don't know. You'll have to watch it and report back.
Oh, now I'm excited. I will report. Maybe I'll even add a little asterisk to the end of this podcast when I release it. We'll see.
Yes, please do.
Okay, well, once again, thank you for joining me, Jessi. I always have a fun time hanging out with you, and I was just teasing you. You are welcome back on Staff Picks anytime in the future.
Always a pleasure, Mario, and I will be happy to come back.
All right. Once again, everyone, happy Halloween. And once again, this is Staff Picks. My name is Mario Lanza. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at staffpixpodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter @MarioJLanza. And until next time, I'll be out there searching for more movies that deserve more love, and I'll be shoving the conductor in my way so he'll be eaten by zombies first. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
아빠!